Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to share with you why you're not just the observer of your world and how your mind has real measurable effects in your life. And I'm going to show you step by step how to collapse the tiny atoms and electrons that make up everything around us into a specific event called a new experience. Whether it's curing disease that you're after, or manifesting something into life, or manifesting a partner, a house, or a new job. The first thing you need to know is this. In order to create something different from what you're used to in your own personal bubble that you call your world, you have to change the way you routinely think, feel, and act. Otherwise, when you repeat the thoughts, feelings, and reactions of the day before and the day before that, you're only reaffirming your current reality. You reaffirm the way you respond to your current reality, and you reaffirm the way the current reality makes you feel. Neuroscience explained this perfectly. Whatever information you have been exposed to throughout your life, whatever memories you've had, whatever knowledge you may have acquired, whatever experiences you may have had, the people you know, the places you've been to, this is all stored in the brain's synaptic connections. You may not know you are storing all these things, but the subconscious mind, which makes up 95% of who you are being at any given time, remembers very well. All of these experiences are reflected in the networks of neurons that make up your brain. So what all these neural pathways that have been created through a lifetime of experience are doing is remind you to reproduce the same type of experiences over and over again. So what they're doing is basically they're trying to control you. They're controlling what you're going to think, how you're going to react, and by extension, what you're going to experience. By reminding you of who you think you are in reference to the outside world, they are defining your identity. So your identity becomes defined by everything external to you. You basically have no say or power over it. And what's happening is, as your brain fires existing neural pathways to reflect everything that you already know and can predict, you are only reproducing the past. And in terms of quantum physics, your past is becoming your future. Your brain hardware is continually reaffirming your life as you know it. You can't blame the brain though. It's just the way it's constructed. Think about it. All of the sensory data your brain receives makes it go back and retrieve information from the past so it can process it better. And then it retrieves the emotions and the thoughts connected to that very same information. Does this make sense? Think about what you do every day and the information this gives your brain. So as soon as you wake up, you immediately and automatically plug into a known reality. Your partner might be lying next to you. You can already hear the cat playing possibly. There might be a familiar noise or a garbage truck from outside. You get out of the same side of the bed. You perform the same memorized routine. You put on the clothes that make you look a certain expected way. You grab your bag, you grab your kids, if you have them, you get into traffic, you go into your usual route, you drop the kids off at school, and you go to work. Already, the chemical cocktail of frustration or stress is present in your blood. Already, your neurons are firing to say, the familiar emotion I get from rushing to work is stress. So here, let's fire together and reproduce the same exact effect as the day before. Then at work, You encounter the same people that trigger the same emotional responses in you, which causes your neurons to again do their little game of firing in certain familiar ways to produce the same familiar thoughts, to produce the same familiar day, to produce the same familiar life. Then you rush home so you can hurry up and help your kids with their homework, so you can hurry and prepare dinner, so you can hurry up and watch some TV, so you can hurry up and go to bed at the same time, so you can what? Do the exact same thing all over again tomorrow. Have you taught your brain some new way of being and thinking? Why do you then expect a different outcome? Why do you keep hoping for something different to show up in your life? It will not. The quantum model shows us that whatever keeps happening up here keeps happening out there. Hebb's law, which is a well-known principle in neuroscience, tells us that nerve cells that fire together wire together. What this means is that when you keep activating certain neurons over and over again, then each time some of those neurons are activated, it becomes easier for the rest of that group of neurons to activate again. And what eventually happens is those neurons develop a connection. And once some of them fire, the others start firing as well. I'll give you an example. If your boss keeps pissing you off for some reason, you will start activating certain neurons that are signaling to your brain, I'm pissed off, right? Then another set of neurons might start activating that is signaling to you, I'm stressed, and your cortisol levels start going up. Then possibly another set of neurons might activate that will signal a feeling of dissatisfaction to you and the thought, I hate this job. If the above scenario happens enough times, then what's going to happen is those neurons will form a tightly woven group labeled boss. And whenever you even hear the word boss, all those groups of neurons that I mentioned before will start firing together, and the effects will be elevated cortisol or stress, you're pissed off, and you hate this job. And this, my friend, becomes your everyday reality. This goes so deep, so not only your reactions, but also your actions and your feelings become repetitive. You have become a slave to your environment. You have become a sum total of circumstances that are taking place outside of yourself. The good news is there's a way out. If you're interested in changing your life and changing all these patterns that are keeping you in a known, predictable reality, what you should do is change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. And the way to do it is by mentally rehearsing the thoughts, feelings, and circumstances that you want to be having out there. Neuroscientists conducted an experiment. Two groups of people, right? One group rehearsed one-handed piano exercises for 2 hours every day for 5 days. The other group mentally rehearsed the exercises without ever touching a piano. And they did this for 2 hours a day for 5 days. Now, what happened is when they performed functional brain scans on these two groups, they found that all the people in both groups activated and reinforced clusters of neurons in the same specific areas of the brain. So whether they physically engaged in the activity or only mentally performed it made no difference as to the changes happening in the brain. So our brain doesn't actually know the difference between the feedback it gets from the external world or the internal world of our mind. So if we are vigilant, if we pay attention and practice a new skill over and over again in our mind, our brains will change. Nothing outside of us has to change for the moment. When you can repeatedly think something to the exclusion of everything else that's happening in your outside environment and sustain it for enough time, then your brain will be ahead of its environment. It will start preparing your mind for the outside circumstances that you want. And because in this beautiful quantum field that we live in, the observer is able to collapse electrons and manipulate energy according to his or her mental structure by thinking, feeling, and acting a certain way, the reality around you will change to match the way you're actually observing it, or rather creating it. Here's a last tip as you prepare for the circumstance you want by thinking, feeling, and acting. You do this by letting go of the outcome. Let go of the thoughts that this is something you will have in the future. You need to embody the experience now. Feel as though you have it in this moment. Act as though you haven't. And the way to do that is to be in the present moment. The future does not exist. Let it go. The idea of a linear time is being debunked more and more by quantum physics. Linear time is a construct of our minds because that's the only way that we can process reality. Otherwise, we would go crazy. We wouldn't be able to process all this information that all time is present right now. Most of us are limited that way. By being in the present moment, though, what you do is you embody the feelings and the thoughts of a future, which is not actually a future, but it's part of now, right? It's part of the present. And this way, you start collapsing your reality and creating a new one. Do you understand this? The past, the present, and the future are all here. And by starting to embody them right now, all of them, you start creating a new experience that you think of as the future, but that is actually present right here, right now. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, and hit the little